Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. I am Sandy Williams. Here's what we have in the bulletin.
JMEA president bemoans lack of consultation before new tax on sugar-sweetened beverages. Call for special education law in Jamaica. And later in sports, CPL to return to Sabina Park for 2026.
Thanks for joining us. Here are the details. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Catherine Silvera, has joined the stakeholders reacting to the government's decision to implement a new tax on sweetened beverages. Under the new measure, a tax of 2 cents per milliliter will be applied to sweetened drinks. Speaking on Smile Jamaica Monday, Mrs. Silvera says she is surprised that there was no consultation with manufacturers and other stakeholders prior to the implementation of the tax.
Usually been collaboration and consultation, and so I think a lot of our manufacturers and ourselves at the JMEA are a little surprised that this time there wasn't any consultation. And so we do hope that, this is the beginning of the budget cycle. We do hope that starting now, we can have some level of consultation because there are still a lot more questions than answers. Does this mean that it's only on added sugar drinks, or is it on 100% natural juices or drinks that have sugar occurring naturally?
That while the association understands the importance of promoting healthier lifestyles, it is concerned about the potential economic impact.
The government needs to understand that consultation is what works best, especially when you have a sector that is utilizing Jamaica made and we're exporting as well. So for us, it is not just the SCT on the sugary beverages, but it's also the increase on the environmental levy. Because while the SCT on sugary beverages may not apply to export, it shouldn't apply to exports. The environmental levy does. So the increase in the environmental levy could also affect and hurt exporters as well.
Mrs. Silvera says the association is hopeful that there can be a balanced approach between the government and business community, ensuring that public health objectives are met without placing undue strain on manufacturers or consumers. With the special consumption tax, SCT, to be applied to sugary drinks in a matter of months, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is reiterating calls for stakeholders to promote a healthier lifestyle.
What I'd really like to see is a reasoning around why we need to shift behavior as all stakeholders of society. Those in our schools through school nutrition policy, those in our community, which is the church, the community center, the political representatives, those in the agro-processing sphere who are developing the formula and branding the products to offer to the public, which we need. We need a conversation.
Dr. Tufton was speaking recently at the Oxford Community Health Centre in St. Mary. He says the current over-reliance on unhealthy food options isn't sustainable.
It is not sustainable for a society that has a runaway sick profile, where people are having earlier onset of illness, where people are dying prematurely. If you say lifespan is 74 years for men and 76 for women. And those data currently are pointing us in that direction.
Too many educators still do not know how to recognize children with special needs. An admission from the Jamaica Teachers Association president as he reiterated the call for the government to create an act specific to special education in Jamaica. Krista Campbell has her story.
The annual Special Education Conference and workshops at Church Teachers College in Manchester provided the backdrop for another call for a Special Education Act in Jamaica. Jamaica Teachers Association JTA President Mark Malava shared his own experience with educators who are just not equipped to differentiate a special needs child from an unruly one.
Oftentimes they see the students up, shouting, doing all sorts of things and operating in a way that is not normal, and we just classify them as bad and disruptive when that is really not the case.
He explains that it's an issue that isolates special needs children within the formal education system.
On recognition that a child may have certain learning challenges, they need to be diverted to an entity, a center, and it should be mandatory for them to be tested so that that data can follow the students throughout the system so that we can cater for their needs.
His repeated call for laws to better support special needs education was supported by Principal for the Manchester-based Cartwright College, Dr. Prim Lewis, who is also chairman of the National Committee on Special Education.
The country needs a Special Education Act alongside the Disabilities Act, which will mandate parents, which will mandate students, which will mandate teachers, which will mandate principals. So some of the things that we asked to do in schools, we won't need to ask because it is a mandate, it is legal, and if we don't do it, you will find yourself being embarrassed.
She lamented that it takes too long for students to be assessed so they can be formally diagnosed with special needs for the required interventions. She also called for public education, especially for parents, to accept that having a child with special needs is not something to be ashamed of. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Residents in Lacovia, St. Elizabeth staged a protest in the Rice Feast community this morning over alleged police brutality. Residents say they are tired of what they describe as abuse and are calling for urgent intervention to address the issue.
Night, day, still a man in a more than 500 police coming at them. And them beat the boy, them go, them beat them come, them plant gun pan them and them plant shot in one of them house. Plant gunshot. I want my cousin-in-law do away. What a good thing so we are searching and find him. We tired of them.
Oh, they leave young youth them and leave the lane. We tired of them. Then take set on youth them for no reason at all. We are as if they no stop trouble youth them, we not stop protest.
Commuters were left stuck in traffic for hours due to the protest. The roadway was eventually cleared by police. A man was injured in a crash along the Bogue Main Road in St. Elizabeth on Sunday afternoon. The incident reportedly occurred around 5:40 p.m. It involved a white pickup van and a motorcycle traveling in opposite directions. The van heading from Balaclava towards Braze River was struck when the driver of the motorbike reportedly lost control of the unit. The driver of the van explained what happened.
I see the bike that take the corner come full speed and slow, stop the van. Actually put the van over in the corner of the bush to save the man. And straight in the van, straight in inside the van.
Now, it is alleged that the motorbike driver had been drinking as a bottle of alcohol reportedly fell from him after the collision. He was rushed to the hospital for treatment. The police are investigating.